Hello everyone, and welcome to Wisdom and Wealth. In this channel, we delve into age-old wisdom and practical strategies to help you navigate life's complexities and build a richer, more fulfilling existence. Today, we're exploring a truly profound concept from Buddhism, one that can shift your entire perspective, the idea that you don't think thoughts, thoughts think you. It may sound a little strange, but stick with me, this insight could change your life. Have you ever stopped to truly consider who is thinking your thoughts? It sounds like a strange question because we always say, I think this, or I had a thought. But what if that is not exactly how it works? What if thoughts are not something you produce, but something that simply appears? Before we dive deeper, if you're finding this intriguing already, please give this video a like and consider subscribing to our channel. We're committed to bringing you insightful content to help you live a more meaningful life. Take a moment right now, just pause and wait. Can you decide what your very next thought will be? Try to pick it. You will find that you cannot. A thought simply arises. It comes from somewhere unknown, and then it is just there. You do not ask for it. You do not choose it. It just shows up. Centuries ago, the Buddha taught something profound about this very phenomenon. He said, all phenomena are preceded by mind. This means that before anything takes form, before any feeling, any action, or any experience, the mind is already in motion. It is already generating. Think of it as the stage being set before the actors even arrive. Modern science, in a surprising way, mirrors this ancient wisdom. Scientists like Benjamin Libet conducted experiments that showed brain activity begins before a person consciously decides to do something. The brain is already moving, already preparing, before you feel like you have made a choice. It's like the body is making up its mind, before you do. So, if thoughts just appear, and if brain activity starts before you decide, then who is this you that claims ownership? Often, the I we refer to is just a voice inside our head, a kind of internal narrator that quickly steps in and says, oh, I thought that. But that statement itself, I thought this, is just another thought that has appeared. Think of it like this, a news reporter arrives late to a scene. The event has already happened. The story has already unfolded. But the reporter then stands in front of the camera and says, I am reporting this story. They are presenting the news as if they created it, as if they were there from the very beginning, even though they arrived after the fact. And now, if you are still finding this content insightful, please like this video and consider subscribing to the channel. We are working to bring you more content to find wisdom and wealth in your life. In a similar way, the sense of a thinker, of an I, who is doing the thinking, often comes after the thought has already arisen, not before it. What we call you in this context is largely a habit of mind. From the time we were very young, we were taught to identify with our thoughts. Our parents, our teachers, society, they all told us, that's your thought, what are you thinking? This constant reinforcement led us to believe that we are the source, the owner, of every single thought that passes through our mind. It became a deeply ingrained pattern, like a well-worn path in the forest. But the Buddha offered a different perspective, a truly liberating one. In one of his core teachings, the Anatalakkhana Sutta, he pointed directly to this illusion. He said, this is not mine. This I am not. This is not myself. He was not just talking about our physical body, or our feelings, or our perceptions. He was speaking directly to the very process of thinking itself. He was inviting us to see that the thoughts arising within us are not inherently ours, and the sense of a permanent I that owns them is not what it seems. They are simply phenomena, arising and passing, just like everything else. Observe your own mind for a moment. You will likely find that many thoughts are not kind. Many are not even true. Our mind has a tendency to create fear, to judge others, and to crave things we do not have. It is a busy place, always generating. Many of these thoughts are not born from wisdom or clear insight. They are reactive. They arise from what Buddhism calls the three poisons, or three roots of unwholesomeness: lobha, which is greed or craving; dosa, which is anger or aversion; and moha, which is delusion or ignorance. Consider this: when you feel a strong emotion, like sadness, do you truly feel like you are actively thinking sad thoughts? Or does it feel more like sadness itself has taken over, and it is thinking through you? When deep sadness arises, we do not consciously decide to form thoughts about its reasons. Sadness can flood the mind, and the thoughts that follow are simply expressions of that sadness, not choices we make. The sadness itself becomes the active agent, and it thinks its way through us. This constant stream of thinking also serves a purpose. It can be a subtle way to hide pain, a way to avoid feeling what is truly happening inside us. For instance, someone who constantly worries about the future, or endlessly analyzes past conversations, might be using this mental activity to avoid a deeper, perhaps uncomfortable, feeling they have not yet faced. Sigmund Freud, a well-known psychologist, described this as a defense mechanism. It is the mind's way of protecting itself from distress, from truths it finds difficult to confront directly. Instead of facing a painful emotion, the mind creates a distraction through overthinking or analyzing. In Buddhism, this is seen as a form of avijja, or ignorance, not a lack of intelligence, but an unawareness of our true nature and of the direct reality of our experience. And if you found this helpful, hit that like button and subscribe, so you never miss an upload. We think too much, not because we are wise, but because we are trying to avoid simply being with a feeling. We tend to believe our thoughts strongly because they sound like our own voice. They are familiar. They feel personal. This familiarity gives them a strong sense of truth. But familiarity does not mean something is true or helpful. A story you have told yourself many times, even if not accurate, starts to feel real. There is a saying that points to this: the liar lives inside your head and speaks in your voice. This means the mind can create stories, judgments, and fears that we then accept as reality simply because they are part of our internal monologue. So, if thoughts arise spontaneously, and many of them are not kind or true, then what can see them? It is not another thought. It is not something that judges or reacts. It is what we call awareness. Awareness is not what thinks. Awareness is what sees thinking. It is the space in which thoughts appear and disappear. It is the quiet knowing that simply observes, without getting caught up in the story the thoughts are telling. This distinction matters deeply, and it is the first step towards truly understanding our minds. Your thoughts have a way of turning life into a movie. And in this movie, you are always the main actor. Everything revolves around you. The world becomes a stage where your thoughts play out scenes, create dialogues, and assign roles to everyone around you. But this movie is never a true reflection of reality. It is edited. It is biased. It is full of filters applied by your own past experiences, your fears, and your desires. As the writer Anais Nin once put it so clearly, we don't see things as they are. We see them as we are. This profound truth lies at the heart of Buddhist understanding. Buddhism teaches that all our perceptions are conditioned. This means that what we perceive is not raw, objective truth, but something shaped by our mind's habits, our past, and our current mental state. Our minds are constantly adding layers of interpretation to everything we experience. But why do thoughts arise the way they do? They do not simply appear from nowhere. Buddhism explains this with a teaching called dependent origination, or praditya samutpada. This teaching shows that thoughts are not created by a single self sitting inside your head, deciding what to think. Instead, they are the result of a complex chain of conditions. This chain begins with our senses making contact with the world. For example, your eye meets a form, leading to a direct moment of seeing. This contact then produces a basic feeling, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. From that feeling, your mind begins to perceive and recognize what has been seen. And it is from this recognition and feeling that mental formations, or thoughts, arise. Consider a simple example: your eye sees a flower. This leads to a moment of direct contact. This contact produces a pleasant feeling. Your mind then recognizes it as a rose. And from this recognition and pleasant feeling, a thought arises: I wish I could keep this rose. Or perhaps, if the rose reminds you of a past sadness, a thought might be: this flower reminds me of her. And sadness follows. That thought, I wish I could keep this rose, or this flower reminds me of her, is not yours in the way you might assume. It is conditioned. It is a natural outcome of that chain of events, a result of the preceding conditions, not a personal invention by some separate you. As the Buddha said, when this exists, that arises. When this ceases, that ceases. Thoughts arise because the conditions for them are present. They are not spontaneous creations from a singular thinker. Because of this conditioned nature of our mind, our suffering often comes not from reality itself, but from the stories this conditioned mind creates about reality. For example, someone you know walks past you without saying hello. The reality is just that they walked past. But your mind, through this chain of conditioned perceptions and mental formations, quickly creates a story: she ignored me. Then, it builds on that: I am not lovable. Where did that thought, I am not lovable, come from? It came from a chain of old memories, past emotions, and ingrained mental habits that were triggered by that initial, neutral event. The Buddha stated, the world is led by the mind. This means that the world we experience, the world we suffer in or find joy in, is largely a creation of our own mental activity. But this mind is led by causes, by conditions, not by a single, independent creator. We do not live in reality as it truly is. We live in vijnana, a constructed version of reality, a world built from our thoughts, our perceptions, and our interpretations. When we believe every thought that arises, every story our mind tells, we are living inside a cage. It is not a cage with physical bars. It is a cage made of our own beliefs, our own judgments, our own fears. The most striking thing about this cage is that its door is always open. We are free to step out at any moment, but we have forgotten that it is a cage at all. We have become so used to its confines, so identified with the thoughts that make its walls, that we do not even see the open door. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus spoke to this very point when he said, people are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them. The views are the thoughts, the stories, the interpretations that our mind creates. When we confuse these mental constructions with reality, we become trapped. Behind all thinking, behind the noise and the endless movie playing in our heads, there is a quiet knowing. This knowing is not a thought. It is not an argument. It simply sees. Try this for a moment, notice the silence. Not the silence in the room around you, but the silence between your thoughts. It is always there, always present, even when thoughts are active. It is like the space on a page before any words are written. That space is pure and ready. The Buddha spoke of this very nature of the mind. He said, the mind, radiant and pure. This means that, at its core, the mind is not inherently troubled or confused. Its nature is clear, like a shining jewel. The thoughts, feelings, and perceptions that arise are like dust or clouds that temporarily cover that radiance. Thoughts themselves change. They come and go. A thought about yesterday's event passes, and a thought about tomorrow's plan arrives. But what is it that sees these thoughts changing? What is it that remains constant, no matter what thought arises? That is awareness. Thoughts are like clouds moving across the sky. Awareness is the sky itself. The sky does not change when clouds appear or disappear. It does not become cloudy. It simply holds the clouds. You cannot stop the clouds from forming and moving. But you do not have to become a cloud. You do not have to identify with each thought that passes. True mindfulness is about watching without holding. It is seeing thoughts as they are, without grabbing onto them, without pushing them away, and without following them down a rabbit hole. In the practice of vipassana, or insight meditation, this is a very simple instruction. This is a thought. This is a feeling. That is all. You simply name it, acknowledge its presence, and let it be. You do not need to push a thought away, because that is still reacting to it. You do not need to follow it, because that is getting lost in its story. You simply see it clearly, just as it is. When you do this, something profound begins to happen. Just as Lao Tzu, another wise teacher, observed, muddy water clears when left alone. When you stop stirring the water of your mind, when you simply observe the thoughts without interference, the mental noise begins to settle. The clarity that is always there, the mind's own radiant nature, begins to shine through. Freedom does not come from controlling your thoughts. You cannot force your mind to stop thinking. The mind is designed to generate. True liberation comes from no longer being pulled into every thought, from no longer obeying every voice in your head. Enlightenment is not a state where thoughts disappear. It is a state where thoughts no longer hold you captive. Imagine waves on a vast ocean. Waves come and go, they rise and fall, they can be big or small, calm or stormy. But these waves do not shake the ocean itself. The ocean remains the deep, stable, unchanging body of water. Similarly, thoughts are like waves on the surface of your mind. They will always arise, but they do not have to disturb the deep peace of your awareness. You cannot stop the mind from creating thoughts. This is its nature. But you can stop mistaking the thoughts for you. You can stop believing that every thought is a command, a truth, or a part of your essential being. The Buddha taught this directly: nothing is to be clung to as I or mine. This applies to our thoughts just as it applies to our body or our feelings. They are not intrinsically us. Think of a common thought that arises: I need this. Perhaps it is a new item, a certain outcome, or someone's approval. The thought says, I need this. But wisdom, the awareness that simply observes, asks a different question: do I truly need this? It is a simple question, but it changes everything. It creates a space between the thought and your reaction. It challenges the automatic belief. Peace is what remains when thoughts lose their power over you. It is not something you gain or create. It is what is left when the constant striving, the endless internal arguments, and the chasing after every mental story finally quiet down. You stop fighting with your thoughts. You stop trying to push them away. You stop following them down every path they suggest. You simply witness them. You see them arise, you see them remain for a moment, and you see them pass away. And suddenly, the storm in your mind begins to calm. Not because you forced it to calm, not because you controlled the thoughts, but because you have stepped back. You are no longer caught in the current. You are the steady observer, the vast, clear sky, simply watching the clouds drift by. And now, as we reach the end of this insightful exploration, please remember to like this video and subscribe to Wisdom and Wealth. By doing so, you'll join a community of individuals seeking wisdom and practical ways to enrich their lives. Until next time, may you find peace and clarity in the space between your thoughts.